Ding! We are now live. Hey everyone, this is Brian Zane from Wrestling with Regret. It's the first ever live episode of the show. I'm here with Jay Biggs. You might have seen him a couple of reviews we've done in the past. The crappy knockoff wrestling album review.
Yes.
We also did the crappy action figure review. He had a bit of a cameo on that. And we've done some commentary stuff on and off in the last couple of years for other various organizations. And he is with me tonight to talk about Elimination Chamber. It just wrapped up, and now we're here talking about our gut reactions. Right now, we are live, but according to what I'm seeing here on the Google Hangout, there is no one here. So if you just want to give me a quick minute, I'm going to try and share this real quick. Get people to come, basically, if you want to come on down, by all means, come join us, and we will chat it out. You can live chat us. You can ask us questions about what you thought about the event, and give us your thoughts as well. I'm just going to put up on Facebook. Excuse me for a minute. This is the awkward part of live television and the fact I've never done this before. So, boosh. Okay, cool. That's live TV, folks, on YouTube. Anyway, so I'm here with me notes to talk to you about what just happened at the show. Want to give a quick little note here. I shouldn't have to mention this, but it bears mentioning. If you don't want to be spoiled on this show, then turn back now. I know some people will be like, hey, man, don't spoil the event. I'm like, well, you shouldn't have gone to the thing that talks about a pay-per-view that just wrapped up if you haven't finished watching it on the network. So this is the very first network-exclusive show that they've done. It's not, you weren't able to pick it up with traditional pay-per-view methods. Quick, what was your first thought? Do you think it was a good, solid, what do you think of the show?
This show felt like I was going to come into it with the right predictions.
Mm-hmm.
And, there was a couple things that left me surprised about the evening. But overall, it was just like a 3-hour kind of Raw to me in a weird way. That's exactly how it felt. And especially having the pay-per-views so close together, I think that's something that, makes it that way. So
yeah, I know exactly. I think the fact that we had a Payback 2 weeks ago, we have this show tonight, and we're going to have Money in the Bank 2 weeks from now. I think it's this glut of pay-per-views, and how special can an event be when they're just 2 weeks separated from what we just saw, from the last one. I think it's a little too much, and I get why they're doing it because they want to try to sell the network.
At this point, as a fan, they're making it to where you absolutely have to get the network, or you're going to be paying a tremendous amount for pay-per-views every year.
Yep, exactly.
It would just be very expensive every 2 weeks to spend $50.
Yep, exactly. I'm tweeting this right now. Excuse me.
Wow.
I'm so awkward on live television. Don't ask me why. I agree. It wasn't a big show feel in the same way, like WrestleMania, for example. It was a solid show, but I think is it weird to say it's like we should be expecting solid shows from these people all the time? Like we've had, if you from WrestleMania to now, all of the pay-per-views have been good to great, good at minimum. So I think overall it was a very strong show. I think all told, there's only one real big takeaway from the show, and we'll get to that in a little bit. There was one bright shining moment in an otherwise, kind of average pay-per-view, a very predictable pay-per-view. So that was my big takeaway from it. And
another thing that takes away from it too, and I continue to stress this whoever I talk with, the pay-per-view stage, the setup, it feels like Raw. It feels like main event. It feels like SmackDown. The only stage that's different nowadays is WrestleMania.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, I forget how the other sets, like SummerSlam, I'm sure that was the same thing. I think, it's getting to the point now where, it feels, when we say that these pay-per-views feel like Raw, it's because they have the same set. That's one part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think what else we could talk about just in general before hopefully people join us.
Well, we got a few viewers. Looks like we got 6 right now.
Oh, we're at 6 viewers. Oh, I didn't even notice that view count. Well, thank you very much so far for watching. Feel free.
Guys are smart too.
Yeah, you know more about this than I do. How's that possible?
7 now.
Oh, snap. Okay, here we go. We're really rolling now, baby. All right, so if you do want to chat, live chat is enabled, so feel free to start saying something. I got a little column here on the right side of the screen, so I'll be able to see your comments. So now that we have some viewers, we've killed enough time. We've got the right. Oh, we lost a viewer. Dang it. Anyway, let's talk about it. So, opening up with the tag team championship match. I think that was a good choice to start out with the tag team match, to have one of the two chamber matches start the thing off, get people hyped. It's always good to have that exciting opener, and they're very good at doing that now. In the last, especially the last several shows, they know how to kick a show off. Get the young guys, get the high flyers, get the spotty guys.
Those Lucha Dragons, they needed those kind of spots and stuff.
Exactly. So it was a very good choice to start the show off with the tag match. Never been done before, tag team elimination chamber match.
There were some surprises.
It was definitely good. And I think, it was a very good, high-impact, spot-filled match, but it was also one of those things where I felt there was a lot of standing and waiting for spots to happen. A lot of guys had to stall for time and stand still for these spots, as good as they were. I think it was, it's one of those things if you just watch and pay attention, if you've ever spent any time, watching wrestling, and knowing how the psychology works and setting for the spots, there's a lot of that just setup time, and with 12 guys, 13 guys in the ring, that makes it more obvious.
Well, that's what I said about Kalisto. I'm like, well, watch, he's going to go up there and do a spot off the top, and then all of a sudden he was up there, but I don't think he was able to get a swing, other than just that dive that he did.
Right, the dive was impressive. I think it was good for what he did. Although, you and I both said this during the show, when Kalisto was climbing the cell, I couldn't help but think of Homicide.
Homicide trying to get out of the...
For any of you who saw the very first ever Monday night TNA Impact when Hulk Hogan was taking over, the very first match they had, it was a big, red cell. It was basically an elimination chamber, but it was painted red and there were no pods. And one of the big spots was Homicide climbing up and trying to get to the top of it, but he hooked his foot and he was just stuck there like an idiot. He didn't
have the strength to pull himself out through the hole is what happened.
Exactly. So that's exactly what we thought of when we saw Kalisto doing that. Luckily, Kalisto made it work. It's funny, you talk about, I think a lot of people thought that the New Day weren't going to win this match, but history has shown me that when the deck is stacked so high against a heel team, then they're always going to win. I feel like that, usually when a dominant heel team or a team that has the titles for a long time in their heel, when they lose a match, it's not in a situation you would expect. It's not in a big gimmick match like this. It's something where, it's one team against one team, and then that happens. But in a match as gimmicky as this was, I knew that New Day was not going to lose the belts.
I was still surprised the Ascension was included in this.
Yeah, I was going to say, 2 weeks ago, my payback review, I predicted, first of all, I was way off of the number of teams. I thought it was going to be 3 teams, because it was going to be starting with 2 guys, and then the other 4 people in a pod. So you'd have New Day, you'd have Kid and Cesaro, and you'd have Harper and Rowan, because they're a tag team now. They reunited. So I expected they would be in this match. Not only was I wrong with the number of teams, I totally whiffed on Harper and Rowan. I assumed they were going to be in it too. So it was shocking when I saw that the Ascension made it there. You might as well put the Mega Powers in there as far as I'm concerned. And I'm talking about the New Age ones.
Do you think that there's a possibility, because as you notice, all 3 of the 4 Wyatt family members were left off the show tonight? Is there some sort of reuniting? Because I do remember reading an article that Ray had did an interview last year, and he said, just because the Wyatt family has completely broken apart doesn't mean we can't come back together.
Yeah.
I almost thought that they might have made an appearance together at WrestleMania to help Bray Wyatt, against Undertaker or something, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, and I think they were still kind of hoping that the Harper singles experiment would take off at that point.
The wine maker?
No, that's the Rowan singles experiment. That one died a death in December.
Yeah, but Harper was great. I still like Harper.
There was still hope for Harper as singles, and
I still think there is.
Yeah, something might happen with that. But as of right now, they're back together. But maybe they're going to save something for Money in the Bank in 2 weeks. Who knows? But yeah, so it was very weird that they weren't in it, in my opinion. But I guess if Wyatt's not going to be at the show, and we'll talk about that a little later, if Wyatt wasn't going to be in the show, then I guess Harper and Rowan being there, if they are going to go that direction, reunite everybody, it's not going to go there. It wasn't going to happen tonight.
Would it make sense for New Day feud 3-on-3?
I guess. I think. Yeah, if you want to make the Wyatt family face, which I think last year around WrestleMania time, the seeds were planted. It could have worked to make them a face tag team, a face stable, but it obviously didn't pan out. And maybe now that Wyatt's kind of aimless right now, still aimless, despite winning a payback against Ryback. I think that will, who knows what will happen. But let's move on. I don't want to dwell on this match too much. Next match, Divas Championship, Nikki Bella versus Naomi versus Paige. I'm glad Paige is back, but I kind of wish she hadn't left at all, because my whole thing on it is when these wrestlers are leaving TV to do their film projects, it totally kills their momentum, even if it's for a couple of weeks. In the case of Paige, I believe it was a full month. Like, she had all this momentum coming in after WrestleMania, and then she was written off. And then, so they did the Naomi thing for a while. They brought Paige back, so now they're going to probably transition to a Paige-Nikki singles feud. But I kind of wish Paige had maintained throughout the time. Like, I wish she was not taken off TV, because when you do that, it kills your momentum. People forget who you are in today's world of WWE. And so anything you had going for you is immediately gone. So, sure. But I'm glad she was back. I was impressed at the two big spots, the two big bumps that Paige took. By the way, the top corner, top rope, it was the powerbomb, German suplex spot. I haven't seen many guys take that spot, let alone many women.
Very true.
So that was very impressive by Paige to take that. And then the reverse Frankensteiner from Naomi.
She didn't hit it so well, but it was just kind of a cool bump to see Divas do.
Right. So kudos to them for doing that. I felt I kind of like, I was kind of taken out of it partway through. Well, at the end of it, when Nikki Bella, she won the match, and then she was beaten up. She didn't get the worst of it, but I mean, the fact that she kind of no-sold it, she just looked barely winded, I thought was annoying. And but that being aside, it was kind of a nitpick. It was still a fine match, and triple threat matches are always difficult to rate, because those triple threat matches, it's always a thing where you throw one person out and the other two do their stuff. But it was a fine match. I think in the wake of what NXT is doing now with their women and the big four, you got Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, and Bayley. They're tearing it up right now in the NXT women's division, and the other women too. They're nothing to sneeze at either. So when you've got all those women at NXT nipping at the heels of the main roster, there's going to be some expected kind of stepping up in the Divas division of the main roster. And I think we saw a little bit of that here. But time can only tell to see what will happen in the next few months.
Again, like I said, I can't wait till Charlotte debuts. I think that's going to be really good for the main roster.
Yep, exactly. Let's move on to the next match, the champion versus champion match, John Cena versus Kevin Owens. By the way, before we go on, I see we're at 8. Oh, we were just 8 viewers. Now we're at 7 viewers. But thank you.
All the way up to 9 at one point.
I know. We were just breaking down the door.
Big in Japan.
So, yeah, thank you so much for those who are sticking around. Be sure to chime in your own 2 cents in the live chat area.
Please.
Yeah, right now it's looking pretty barren right now. So feel free to chime in. Cena versus Owens. I think it's a huge vote of confidence in Kevin Owens that the company has in them to not only, last week I had my NXT review and my problems with NXT. And one of the facts was, and it's not a fault on NXT, it's a fault on WWE as a whole, that they would take these NXT people who are over and then they move them to the main roster and their gimmicks are kind of neutered. So this kind of shut my mouth on that, because not only is Kevin Owens' character the same from show to show, they're putting him in with this big match against John Cena from the get-go. Now, Cena's doing mid-card now, but he's still John Cena, so that's nothing to sneeze at. So it's a huge vote of confidence on the part of the company for Kevin Owens.
I think it's huge for him. And like I said, I think this really establishes, with his win, I think it establishes the NXT as a brand more than just the minor leagues. Right, exactly. I think, we talked about that. And, I mentioned on my NXT episode how NXT has essentially become a third brand like ECW was. But they're still labeled this developmental thing. I think Owens' win definitely puts them over the top. They're no longer just a minor leagues. They're no longer developmental. Now they are up on par with Raw and SmackDown, which is kind of a gift and a curse, because once again, it's the developmental thing. And my personal philosophy on this is that we shouldn't be, I feel the exposure on the developmental talent is too great. But I mean, if we're going to be treating it like ECW now, like it was, or a better version of it, then by all means, I guess keep bringing them up. But, I think I was kind of laughing to myself. I call this match part of the John Cena Karma Tour, because, everyone knows how dominant he's been for the last several years. And so starting with SummerSlam last year when he got squashed by Brock Lesnar, I feel now he's kind of giving back finally. He's finally doing the job in some cases, and he's showing, and he's having these really great competitive matches with other people
and it's showing that he can go and that he's as good a wrestler, as good a worker as anyone else.
He's the proverbial Hulk Hogan during the New Blood era in WCW.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah, because he put over Billy Kidman so well.
Yeah, man, right through a table, first time ever.
Oh yeah. So I mean, Owens and Cena. I mean, like it was a lot of false finishes in this. You know, it was a lot of falsies. I feel like these guys were just releasing X at just the right time in these pinfalls. They've been playing a lot of WWE 13. That's the last one I had, at least. You know, Owens looked like $1 million. Cena looked like $1 million. Owens had me popping with a lot of big spots he was doing, like the marrow salt. I don't know what else you call it.
Yeah, that was great. Man.
Yeah, my only concern was like he did so much stuff with Cena. What else can he pull out? I mean, now before anyone crucifies me on that, I haven't seen much of Kevin Owens when he was Kevin Steen, so I don't know what else he can do. But I mean, if this is an example of like what he does when he pulls out all the stops, that's great. But I mean, that's his first big match. Now what's left for him to do? The fact that they're fighting again in 2 weeks, which I hate, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I was like, what? How can they top that? That's the big issue. And my other issue with that match happening so soon is that we know at this point Cena's going to win. He's going to get the rubber. He's going to get the win, and then they're probably going to build to a rematch, a rubber match at SummerSlam, probably with a gimmick, which is fine. But I wish that they hadn't shotgunned. They're hot-shotted the first match for tonight, if that was the case. Obviously, they needed something to get people, to draw people to the network, which it did, I feel. Again, that's the bright spot I was talking about, this match.
They pitted their top, basically, with the strap on, their top internet star because of the network, and their top TV star with John Cena. So I think it was a great way to transition over.
Exactly. So I think it speaks volumes, the fact that Owens did win, and he won clean. That was another big thing. Because when Rusev got his one win against Cena earlier this year, it was a dirty win. Like Lana interfered, Rusev with a low blow. So the fact that that Owens, a relative, you know, not a big name in WWE because he's just recently been part of the roster, the fact that he came in and kicked the door down and beat Cena clean is very impressive. I don't like how Cena takes those pop-up power bombs because he takes it all elbows. That's pretty scary to look at.
It is,
but you know, it was a very competitive match. It was a fun match, and honestly, I think the reason it was such a high point for the show is because you really didn't know how it was going to go. I mean, I assumed that Cena was going to win because that's what happens.
I thought hard fought. I thought Sami Zayn's exact match with Cena was exactly how they were going to book the Owens match, and it didn't. I mean, but you know, it's pay-per-view, or well, not pay-per-view. It's network,
and they had to put in something that would make people go, well, if you missed this network exclusive pay-per-view, then boy, you sure missed out on a big one.
Wait, there's more. That's not the only thing that happened tonight.
Yeah, but it was mostly that match. So, you know, it was a big win for Owens. It's no question how high they are on him. You know, and again, what else can we say about it? You know,
I'm interested to see if they start crossing the brands with belts. Like maybe they put the U.S. strap on Owens and have him have it over in NXT. Are they going to have guys do flip-flop, you know, visits? I thought, see, that's what I loved about the Monday Night Wars. You know, I was explaining it to my son recently, and I was like, you never knew. You know, you could see somebody show up on one show, and like the Wregret, you know,
right?
You just never know what's going to happen, and that's kind of cool. But even though we know there's no sort of like, hate the word, but invasion going on, you know, to where they're, you know, to where they're trying to invade, but, you know, because they're the same company. But it would still be cool to see NXT guys going over and doing some sort of angle tag teams and stuff like that. You know, that would just be something neat.
Yeah, totally. Excuse me. I'm getting a text from one of my friends, Justin Oberholzer from the Freaking Awesome Network, asking me, will I continue doing these live pay-per-view recaps? That's kind of a work. Well, we'll see. We'll see how the success of this one goes, honestly. I hope we can.
Very cool.
Anyway, sorry for that little break in the action there, folks. But you know, it was definitely a big match, and there's not much more to say about it. And you know, maybe it will mean more for NXT. I think that Owens winning legitimizes NXT a lot more. Again, it's the whole vote of confidence. It's the whole fact that Owens kept his character. So I think it's very exciting. Very exciting to see what happens.
I was interested to see if Samoa Joe was going to show up tonight, or what the deal is there.
I thought it was just going to be a gauntlet of people who Kevin Owens has been picking fights with, just showing up one at a time. Maybe that's going to happen at SummerSlam. Who knows?
Maybe we'll get him and CM Punk next year.
Oh, yeah. We'll see about that. The backstage segment, I had nothing else to add about the one right after this, except for the fact that I totally forgot that Roman Reigns wasn't in a match at this show. I don't watch the TV product. I read the results, and that's about the extent of it.
Orton wasn't either.
That's true, but it totally escaped my mind that Reigns and then Orton was not actually booked in this show. But we are seeing that they are going to be in Money in the Bank, so good for them. Bo Dallas, match. I think that Owens, Cena, and we find this out later as the show goes on. I think that the Owens Cena match kind of killed the crowd. It kind of it made them quieter, in my opinion. And Neville and Dallas didn't help matters, but it was, it was what it was. I think it was, and we were talking about this during the show, and we were more about the NXT thing. I think it's very telling about the success of NXT now that so much of the show was comprised of NXT people. You had at least 2 or 3 of the different tag teams, the opener from NXT. You have, you've got Bo Dallas and Neville who feuded for a long time in NXT for the title before moving up. I don't think I heard them too much talking about it. Kevin Owens, the fact that he went over on Cena. I think this is kind of
Eden, a ring announcer, even.
Yeah. I think it's this match is when you realize, wow, NXT is really part of the show now. NXT has formally merged and melded with. It's not just this obscure developmental thing. I think the fact that they are very well known now for NXT, I think that is helping, it's helping people pay more attention to developmental people, which again, I said before, it's a double-edged sword, but it's definitely, you can see more of the melding between these two.
It was definitely a popcorn match, because you pretty much knew what was going to happen, unfortunately, because I believe that the Bo Dallas character needed the win tonight. That was just my opinion.
Yeah.
It would be dirty or whatever, but Neville's hot, but what are they going to do with him? I mean...
Yeah, and Neville is one of those things where it's I think he needed the win too because he lost I forget what happened to Payback.
King Barrett, right?
Yeah.
Is it Barrett?
No, he lost via count out, and then Neville got his heat back. It was really weird. But Neville, it's he's it's probably indicative with the main roster is that there's a lot of people who are just kind of floating in the ether, and Neville's one of them now. He's not a big fish in a small pond anymore. So we've got that issue going on. So he needed the win. Dallas needed the win, but I don't think as much because I think his career will not be dictated by wins and losses. I think he's just a character, and he's gonna get over no matter what, probably based on the fact he's such a wacky character. So again, take it for what it is. It was a popcorn match. So let's move on. I think we've talked too much about it as it is. Let's move on to the Intercontinental title match. Again, I think this match could have been. It was a good match. I'm surprised the crowd wasn't as vocal about it as, say, the tag team match. Then again, it's 2 very different elements. You have spot-heavy tag teams versus a lot of hosses, and then the occasional small guy in Dolph Ziggler. I was kind of surprised that Mark Henry was a replacement for Rusev.
Very odd.
I think a lot of people expected Bray Wyatt because he wasn't booked for the show. But in a way, I guess, if he wasn't going to win the belt, then the fact that he's not a replacement protects him. So having Henry in there is kind of it's a take it or leave it sort of thing. I think King Barrett is the most glorified jobber of all time.
All time.
Because for a guy who's had as many pushes as he has, for a guy who's been put into as many main event style positions as he's had, he has jobbed like no jobber has ever jobbed before. He's jobbed so much Dolph Ziggler feels bad for him.
I almost wonder if even Paul Heyman could help him at this point. I've always thought him and Heyman would be a great pairing, but this is just, I don't know, man, what the heck they're thinking. I mean, they gave R-Truth, and I said this back on Facebook around WrestleMania. I didn't understand exactly why R-Truth was involved in the Intercontinental title match, because we all know he's never going to win, right, or something to that effect.
It's one of those things, yeah. But I mean, I think
was media. He was involved in the media in town and stuff, And
he's a good media hand. Vince likes him, and that'll get you booked for life, apparently, if you're a good on-camera presence for little Jimmy. So, I mean, R-Truth, like, they're throwing him bones at this point, but it's just one of those things where it's like, he's not going to win.
But why did he take the win over Barrett last week? Was it SmackDown or Raw? I don't remember, but he got the win on him.
They pinned him again tonight.
And then he pinned him again tonight. And they just put him as the king on King of the Ring.
Yeah,
that's
the thing. Like, because how many times has Barrett won the IC title and then been jobbed out? He wins the King of the Ring. I don't think he's won barely any matches since he's been King of the Ring. It's like, you could say that, the IC title is meaningless. King of the Ring is meaningless. No, Wade Barrett is just not valued very well in the company because he keeps jobbing to everyone. I don't know what they're.
It's too bad because he has a great look, and back when that whole Nexus split happened, that's when he should have. I mean, they were talking about him being the first guy to beat the Undertaker at one point.
Yeah, I mean, they really should have pulled the trigger on Barrett back then, but since then it's been miscue after miscue, and I don't know if he's ever going to recover. I don't know if he's ever going to get past mid-card status between the fact he jobs so much and the fact that he gets injured so much. Knock on wood, but I think it's just one of those things where Barrett, I don't really see putting any stock in him anymore.
They just need to make him that 70s guy.
Yeah, make him the 70s guy. He's got, he can grow a beard, a little mullet. I think he'd be fine. Ryback winning was a pleasant surprise because I think we lost a viewer because we were making Barrett the 70s guy. I was pleasantly surprised Ryback won because I think everyone kind of thought Sheamus was going to win. I think there were some spoilers out there that suggested Sheamus was going to be the champion after this show. So people were kind of saying, it's a foregone conclusion. I think that might be the reason people didn't really care so much about this match. Also the reason I think the crowd was dead for it. A lot of this match featured matchups we'd all seen before. R-Truth and Barrett. We've seen
the last 16 weeks of Raw.
We've seen Sheamus and Ziggler for a long time. I feel like a lot of this was kind of like things we've already seen. And again, when you're coming after the 13-person chamber match, what can you do to top it? So it was very unfortunate for these guys. But it was great that Ryback won. And like I said 2 weeks ago at the Payback review, his stock, for me, elevated greatly after his match with Bray Wyatt. He pulled out a lot of stuff that I never expected him to do, and he worked really well. For like a Haas versus Haas matchup, I think it was very good. So Ryback, to me, I've improved my stock in him. So the fact that he won, good for him, and I was hoping that after that match, at least one of those two guys would go on to something great. At the same time, when I first saw it, my thought process was, Ryback won, great, he won the title. My thought was, have fun jobbing everybody, because we talk about this way Barrett, but I think the IC title in general kind of makes you a jobber now.
Kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's kind of this designated glorified jobber title almost, which is sad considering the history of the IC belt. And that's like, the irony is, it's the US belt, which was, a WCW title, which kind of merged with the WWE. That's the one Cena has now. That's the one that's getting all the prestige. It's what's being defended every week. Then you have the IC title, and then no one wants it, I think, because it's just such a cursed belt.
It's got a curse on it. Oh, it definitely does.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This is just one of those matches where I felt like you were going into it was predictable. But they pulled out a couple stops. The Mark Henry thing, big deal. I didn't think he was going to win the belt.
Mm-hmm.
Ryback needed the win, and you're right. The crowd didn't really care until he actually won the strap, and then Daniel Bryan got in there and started the yes chant. And of course, that's going to put anything over. So
people will go nuts with the yes chant. It doesn't matter who's doing it.
I just hope he doesn't act like the Big Show and start taking the yes chant now, please. Please.
So it was a meh kind of match, but it was a fun finish. It was very cool to see Ryback win the belt, and hopefully they'll do something with him.
This just real quick, I want to make a point. This raises another question with one Bray Wyatt too, because he did get the win at Payback against Ryback for the belt. So now, are we going to get that Intercontinental title feud, or is Bray going off and getting souls, or what's he doing?
Well, that's the thing. I think Bray's kind of the guy that doesn't need a title, and he's been in title matches before, and I've never really expected him to win, because he's one of those gimmicks that I think if you give him a title, it almost hurts him in a way. Now, I'm sure 20 years ago, you could have said the same thing about Undertaker when he first started out, because that gimmick was so goofy and off the wall that, giving him the title would have been weird. But of course, people have made a lot of comparisons between Wyatt and Undertaker in the past, so you could say that Wyatt is this generation's Undertaker. So what I say about it now might sound goofy, because maybe in a year or two he will win the title and everything will be hunky-dory and make total sense. But I think Wyatt right now, to have the Intercontinental title, it wouldn't matter for him. I think he's kind of.
I don't either.
Like, it's weird. He's in a really weird spot because, like I've been saying, he's aimless right now. But I feel that if he were put in the WWE title program like tomorrow, I would believe it because his gimmick is not. I don't think it's made for main mid card stuff, middling, IC title stuff. I think it's made for like world title or bust. Yeah. Really.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel why it is. And so we'll see what happens. I mean, will they bring him in 2 weeks from now, Money in the Bank? Who knows at this point?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, and it's like
I think we're going for a Ryback Sheamus feud, though. I mean, that's what it looks like
at this point now. Because I mean, I think if you believe what you read in the dirt sheets, Ziggler's stock with the company's falling. He might be on his way out in the next couple of months. I'm not sure. The fact that they're doing storyline stuff with him, with Lana and stuff, and I think Rusev getting hurt really derailed whatever they're doing with those two. I think
broken foot.
Yeah. It sucks for Rusev, for sure. Yeah, and we'll talk. Maybe not tonight because we could go all day about the whole Lana thing. I talked about the Lana thing at Payback. I don't want to go into it more now. But let's move on to the main event, the WWE World Title match. By the way, we're up to 12 viewers now. They knew we were going to reach the main event at this point, so that's why they're all coming in now. So, the Rollins versus Ambrose. The build is good. I think it's cool because it's cool to see the evolution of where they were a year ago. Because Rollins and Ambrose, the Shield had just broken up. Mm-hmm. They were feuding mid-card. They had some moments of main event brilliance, especially like Hell in the Cell, but they were still kind of the designated mid-card act to what was going on with the world title at the time.
Yeah.
So you had that, and then so now they're here in the main event for the title. I think it's great. I think Ambrose was going to get his singles world title match eventually, as long as Rollins was champion, and here we are. I thought it was very weird that Rollins came out first, and sometimes WWE will just change things up for the hell of it. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, okay, tradition states that the heel comes out first, the face comes out second. Always. But in a championship match, that is the exception. That is the I before E except after C. Mm-hmm. Champion comes out last no matter what. I'm pretty sure there weren't a whole lot of times, if ever, that Triple H as a heel champion ever came out first. I don't think that's ever happened. Maybe once. Trying to think. No, did it ever happen? I don't know. You tell me.
They've been switching it up recently. I think it's attributed to everybody just kind of having that ADD. Mm-hmm. They need to do something different, or it looks the same and stale to everybody.
Yeah, I guess shake things up, but at the cost of these truths we hold to be self-evident.
Yeah,
in wrestling canon, it's one of those things where it's like you got to have the crowd popping. Again, you have to have the crowd popping at the end of it. At the end of the intros to get the crowd riled up. So that's why I think they put Ambrose at the end of it. But it's just champion always goes out last. Champion always goes out last, and that's not going to ruin my experience this match. Though it's just something I'm one of those one of the few things I'm very traditionalist on. It was a good match. I mean, honestly, like it's hard. It was hard for us to pay a lot of attention to it because I think it was a foregone conclusion. I think we all kind of knew going in, like Rollins wasn't going to lose the title tonight. He wasn't going to lose the title. He's not going to lose it in 2 weeks at Money in the Bank. He's probably not going to lose it at SummerSlam. I have a feeling he's going to keep it for at least Survivor Series. Who he's going to drop it to, I have no idea. Maybe Roman Reigns, I don't know. But we'll see about that. I was surprised though, because I almost shut up though when Ambrose won. When he won the pinfall.
It was the dusty finish.
But yeah, exactly. Right as that happened, I knew, oh shoot, it was the other referee coming to do it. It's going to be a dusty finish. Then for a while, for a couple minutes, it's like, how much time do we have left in the pay-per-view? Like, is it going to end this way? Like, is Ambrose actually going to be the champion? And
our exact thought was...
Well, my thought was going to be they're going to strip him, because of the referee confusion, they're going to strip it of him either tomorrow on Raw, or they're going to, or it's going to lose it in 2 weeks at Money in the Bank. But either way, we were all kind of proven right because they took the title, they took the win from him, or they took the title from him, even though he ran off with the belt and kind of recreated the CM Punk Money in the Bank.
And he alludes to the fact that he drinks beer, so I think we're going for a Stone Cold type thing.
Well, I mean, they were so ham-fisted with the comparisons all throughout the match. Like Jerry Lawler was like, there was another guy who defied authority and he drank some beer. It's like they were just so ham-fisted. Even Lawler said during the celebration, we're going to have a new attitude era. Like, no, stop. Don't be like the Smarks. Don't be like the fanboys who want a new attitude era.
No.
it was a good match because you could expect that from those two guys. They're both really good workers, and they work well against each other. We saw that all last year.
Yeah.
And the finish. I was almost gonna say if the match ended and the show ended with him as champion, I thought, well, that's a genius move. Sure, it kind of sucks because you don't expect Rollins to lose it then, but at the same time, it's like that really. If they had stuck to their guns and kept the belt on at the end of the show, then that would have made these network exclusive pay-per-views a must-see event.
Yeah,
must-see event. That's one of the things. That's what
viewership tomorrow night on Raw too.
That's one of the big things about these shows. We talked about at the top of this review that these smaller pay-per-views are basically glorified Raws. So if you're going to try and sell this and get people to go on the network for these exclusive shows you can't get through traditional pay-per-view, then you've got to do stuff like that. And if it means hot-shotting title wins, if it means cutting reigns short, I think we're beyond that now. I don't think a lot of people care that much about the sanctity of title reigns, that they should last forever and a day. I think that that was what made the Attitude Era so fun, was the unpredictability of it. And I hate to keep saying, well, the Attitude Era was great, because it had its moments, but that was one of the things that made it interesting, was the unpredictability and the fact that you had these quick title changes. So I kind of wish they had stuck to their guns and kept the belt on Ambrose to make it worth these exclusive pay-per-views. But they didn't. And with him still holding on to the belt, who knows how long that's going to go on, and maybe they'll get back tomorrow, maybe 2 weeks. Who knows? But it's an interesting wrinkle. I'm glad it didn't just end. I'm glad it ended on a high note of Ambrose getting the last laugh and running away. That was small to what
really should have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
once again, we can't trust WWE booking.
No,
you know that, right?
No, and I was going to say, it's like I said at the top of the review, that was the show, by the way. That was Elimination Chamber 2015. It was a show that a couple weeks ago didn't exist. No one knew about it. It was going to happen. And then it kind of was on the cusp of being one of the better shows of the year. The way the matches we had built, the matches that were scheduled. I think people knew that it was going to be a good show. And people had hope for it because since WrestleMania, and Extreme Rules, and Payback, all were good to great. So you kind of expected and hoped that Elimination Chamber would be with that. And I think Cena Owens was really the anchor to that hope happening, because everyone wants to see Kevin Owens succeed, and they knew they were going to get a good match between him and John Cena, which they did. But I think everything else was, the opening match was great. I think it was exciting, although a little kind of staggering at times, kind of stalled at times for spots. And everything else, other than the Cena Owens match, was just kind of meh. It was predictable stuff.
And see, this is the problem, I think, with these 2-week pay-per-views, is it's going to get to the point where nothing's memorable anymore. Me and Luster a long time ago talked about how, you were never everything in wrestling up until about 2001 or 2002. And then the invasion angle happened, with WCW coming in, and it was
every week there was a title change.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Every week there was a turn.
80%.
Yeah, and I've been that way pretty much since I want to say 04, 05. There are some wrestlers I see, I'll hear about. I'm like, wait, did I see that guy? Oh yeah, I used to watch wrestling full time at that point. How did I forget these people?
Well, remember, I was just telling you, I was reading the 2014 Elimination Chamber results, just for giggles, and I was checking it out, and it's just like this year's pay-per-view or event. I'm not sure what you want to call them now, just a network event. Mm-hmm. It's going to be as memorable as Braden Walker.
Well, see, Braden Walker is very memorable for the entirely wrong reasons. So that's one thing.
Leave the memories alone.
Leave the memories alone. It's it was a good show, but we expect that of WWE. We expect WWE to put out good to great shows all the time, especially on pay-per-view. But, like I said, Owens and Cena, that was a great match. The Tag Team Elimination Chamber match was fun. Other than that, everything else is kind of stuff we'd seen before and things that we could predict pretty easily. I don't know what else you could say, really, because it was, I was entertained for the show. I never found myself kind of drifting off asleep.
No. It did kind of have a slow start to it, but once the first elimination or two happened in the chamber, it started getting a little bit more exciting. Mm-hmm. And like we were talking about, you got to start things off a certain way, and And it's just like how I would build a show. You know, you start off hot, and everything else in the middle kind of fills it up to that main event.
Right. And so, yeah,
and it was just it's placed very weird. Even though Kevin and Cena was it really, like you said, was kind of the catapult for the whole show.
Yeah.
But it was mid-card.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I wasn't expecting that to be an event necessarily.
No, I wasn't either,
But I mean,
follow up.
And the thing that takes the piss out of that match was, as fun as it was, it's like, we're going to see it again in 2 weeks on our pay-per-view. Cena's probably going to get his win back. Like, that's so annoying. Can't we just take a break? Take a small break at the very least. I think 2 weeks is way too soon to bring this rematch back.
It better be a Japanese death match or something.
That'll be SummerSlam. Taipei, Indian death match. The glass on the tape.
The 3 falls, and the second fall will be the casket or the buried alive match, right?
Yeah, second fall will be buried alive match. You know, we could go all day with this fancy booking, but yeah, that was Elimination Chamber. Overall, I would have to give it, I don't know, like a B minus. I don't want to give it a C grade because you know, I know C's get degrees, but yeah. I'll say B minus is my grade for it. What would you say?
I would say B minus is very fair. 7 out of 10 stars, easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, it was a good match. Nothing too memorable, though, except for the Owens Cena match. And that's pretty much going to be our review for this. I want to thank all the dozen of you who stuck around for this show to watch us just gab about the show. Will there be more live pay-per-view reviews? Hopefully. I'm hoping so.
Oh, I'm involved.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, leave your, you know, if no one's been chatting this entire time, I'm kind of, you know, maybe that'll grow into something too. But maybe, you know, leave some comments once this turns into, you know, a streaming video, not live video on my list. Be sure to leave your comments down below. See if you want to see more of these live pay-per-view reviews. I think doing it every 2 weeks is going to be kind of exhausting. But, you know, I look forward to, I'm always trying to innovate, always trying to do new stuff with Wrestling with Regret. And I really appreciate you guys for your support. Again, you know, thank you for watching this stuff. Just a deep tease, not this week, but next week is going to be the Season 4 finale. I'm not going to give away that one yet. You'll see the preview for that on the Monday before. But I will tell you there are 2 more episodes before the season finale, or before the season ends. And then there will be 1 more music video, and then we'll be taking a bit of a summer break. So I just want to get you guys geared up for that. You know, so you can get the tissues ready for, you know, all the tears we'll be shedding when we have the end of the season. So, again, be sure to thumbs up this video, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret. Be sure to buy the Wrestling with Regret t-shirt here. You know, available for $15 in the US and Canada, $20 everywhere else. Just sure to write to wrestlingwithregret@gmail.com to order. So everyone, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching the show. I'm Brian Zane.
I'm Jay Biggs.
And we will see you next time.